Layers are free. Orlando Arocena, that's one of his quotes. I am Delta Tango Mike. Welcome to another episode of Document the Game.
Here with Miles Davis, a.k.a. Massive Burn Studios. Very happy to have you guys. Let's get the show started.
Yo, this Bone Crusher, and you're watching the Art is King podcast. Cass.
Today we're going to talk about art influences. I've been to some of my influences in the past episodes. They are Alex Ross. When I saw Kingdom Come, the comic,
Yeah, the
oh
DC.
my God, Jesus, it's like what? But by then, of course, I was already a fan of Frazetta. Everybody's a fan of Frazetta, especially if you grow up with.
I have
comics
all of
in
his
the
books,
80s, yeah.
all of his big hardcovers. I got
Yes.
the collection up there. There's three of them, like
Mm,
Legacy, Testament, and another one. I got
Okay.
all three of them.
There you go. Simon Bisley is the one artist who meshed the comic stuff with the realistic painting styles for me, and so that's another big influence of mine. But currently, I am a big follower of Orlando Arocena, who is the quote I mentioned earlier, who's the one who said that quote, and he is an insanely talented vector artist. Like that guy can do with Illustrator. Things that you've never seen before. Like he's actually way ahead of everybody.
Well, the quote makes a lot more sense to me now, because I'm not a digital artist.
Yeah.
So he said layers are free. I was
what's
like,
that
I
mean?
guess when I do a layer, I gotta work with it. Like it is what it is. But it makes sense when you're digital, because I know you do the layers, right? You can take a layer off and experiment with different layers.
That's right.
That's what
Because
it
you
means,
can always
right?
take one off.
Exactly.
Right.
So
When
I
you're
get it.
painting, you can't. You're gonna
You
have
can
to
a
work
little
with it.
bit, yeah. You
Yeah.
can a little bit. Once it dries, though, acrylics dry fast. So you gotta play quick.
Okay.
You know, unless you're doing oils. Oils are different. Every medium's different, right? So yeah, but I get the quote now.
So who are some of your artist influences?
Oh, I got so many, man. It's hard to pick, but two of my all-time favorites are one's a definitely classic, Gustav Klimt. Absolutely love that guy's work. I still have yet to see it in real life, but I love that guy's work. It's just phenomenal with his use of metallics and kind of abstract meets Renaissance-style form. I really, really enjoy that. I also, I'm more of a modern artist that you guys may not know of, but you should look him up. His name is Joe Soren. He's an oil painter, but man, his stuff is phenomenal. He's done everything from album covers all the way into fine art paintings. He got his start basically through Juxtapose and High Fructose magazine.
Oh, nice.
So I'm always finding influences in those magazines.
Yeah.
I'm always in those
Yeah.
magazines, digging them out, just going through. I got a whole collection of High Fructose from like 10 years ago, and I still go back and look at them. And I'm like, oh, who's this artist? And I'll
Yeah.
check up on them. Like 10 years ago, I'll see if they're still working. I'll get on their website.
Let's see what's up.
Let's see, Eric Fortune
Okay.
is an illustrator that I actually really enjoy too. So those three off the top of my head. But I got so many, man. I could take up the whole 10 minutes talking about them.
Well, which artists are the ones that you're reflecting with some of your work? Because you have a mixture of different looking
Definitely.
things.
Well, when I do, my subject matter helps dictate. When I do my people, I tend to go more spiritual and science and politics. Because, I mean, I've done portraits before in college trying to pay some bills, and that's more technical skills. But when I do work for myself, I try to address that human condition, the happiness and the sorrows, and the tragedies and the hopes and the dreams and that whole human condition. So I use the human figure to express that. And with that, I try to use a modern aesthetic. With comic books. I was raised on comic books too, another influence. So anything from Mark Silvestri all the way into Todd McFarlane.
Right.
Jim Lee is one that we talked about before. I love Jim Lee. So I learned a lot about drawing really from the comic books. And then when it came to painting, I started looking at painters for influences. Never liked Picasso until I started studying Picasso.
Oh, yeah?
I started realizing more of the mental journey that he was on to experiment with new aesthetics. A lot of people don't know that he helped invent collage.
Okay.
A lot of people didn't know that about Picasso.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you had the blue period and the rose period, and, of course, his famous one is Cubism, of course, which he didn't create in a vacuum. He created that with somebody else. I think it was George Broke, say his last name? But, yeah, so the influencers are always changing. But, yeah, my style, like, when I do flowers, subject matter, I didn't want to go too Van Gogh-y on this one, but I decided I want to cartoon the flowers. So if you look at my florals, I decided the aesthetic that I liked, not necessarily the artist, but the influence was I want to go cartoony with the flowers, but I want to go to the nth degree. And so I did the hard outlines with Sharpies. I don't even paint the outlines. That's a hard Sharpie. and then I'll come in and I'll put like little white dots on something, not on this piece in particular, but I'll put like little dots around, like right here, these little white dots on the edges. And so I'll experiment with little things like that and see where it takes me.
And so one of the things that you do when you're painting or changing from one medium to another is to find some artists that you can
Exactly.
pick up some things from.
Exactly.
Right? So a little research.
Yep. Michael Parks is another one I like, but I could tell he liked Gustav Klimt. I could tell. You start knowing your influences, you see other artists that have similar influences to you, and you can kind of relate to their work a little bit better that way, I think. So.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I like that. So some of the things that we should share with others is as actionable items. What actually actionable things?
Sure, like solutions if you're having.
Things,
well, I think everybody has influences though, right? But
well, you should have an influence, right?
Right. Yeah, definitely.
You should look into what other artists have done, and find those things that move you and that you want to then try out. Right. Because like when Frank Miller came out with the Batman story.
Yeah, Frank Miller's my favorites too.
And I was already a Frank Miller fan, but that was like a whole different way of looking at Batman.
Yeah, it was.
So some of those things grab you in this, and so if that grabs you to the extent that it stands out from other things, then do a little research, check it out. And you've done your research with your painters.
Definitely.
I've done mine with some of my influences that I start to look at everything they have, try to find the things that how they are able to interpret certain scenes, moods, situations, dynamics, and so on, composition, and then start applying some of it to yourself and breaking it into fundamentals so that you can build up from there and then find your own way.
Right, exactly.
Based on the influences that you found so far.
Exactly. I'm actually going through that now in my picture books.
Okay.
Like I'm getting to a point now where the styles that I'm using are starting to meld in such a way that it's looking more and more original than it did before. You could tell that I was influenced by like Calvin and Hobbes and some other ones.
Okay.
And it's definitely transcending from that now into a different area. So that's always an exciting journey as an artist. You know, you work hard and you're kind of disappointed or you're like, oh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And then you have that breakthrough. And that's always very exciting. So that'd be a solution. Is like you just keep trying. You gotta stay diligent, and you use your influences. I know I went to art school, and I know that you said you had not, correct?
Right, I did not.
So in art school, one of the exercises they gave us one time was to try to copy a master, pick out an influence. Doesn't have to be a painting master like you like illustration. Go try to copy the cover of like X-Men, whatever number. You know, try to copy some of your influences just on your own time. You don't have to show it to people, but really take your time and try to copy it and see what they did and see what you can do. And though you may not know what you're learning by copying them, but you liked it for a reason. And you're subconsciously going to ingrain some of that in your head, I think. So again, no harm in tracing, no harm in copying, within reason while you're trying to learn. Don't shout that stuff as your own, of course, you know, so.
Yeah, just a fine line between the learning curve and the sharing, especially with the internet today.
Right.
And because people will instantly recognize very popular looking artwork.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there you go.
I seen it before. I had an artist actually copy some of my work one time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And my wife found it, and boy, she was irate. We had to send a cease and desist letter.
Wow. That's deep. Well, that's when you know.
I was
people
flattered
love your
personally.
work.
I was flattered. I was like, hell yeah, let's do that.
People love your work.
Right,
That's good.
so.
All right, cool. Well, that's something to think about today. Please leave us some comments. Leave us some your insights and feedback. Let us know what are your influences and tag us with your work. We want to see what you're working on.
Yes, we do.
All right. My name is DTM, Delta Tango Mike.
I am Miles Davis, a.k.a. Master Burn.
And you've been watching Document the Game. See you next week.